Hi, and welcome to Coffee with Dogs. I'm Susan Ellen Medium. I am an evidential psychic medium and animal communicator. This podcast is a place to share insights into the spirit world and soulful stories of animals and what they can teach us about a life aligned with love. So grab your mug and let's dive into some magic together.
Hi, Susan. How are you?
Hi, Maria. How are you?
Good. I'm great today. Welcome, everyone, to Coffee with Dogs. I'm your host, Maria. And before we begin, we'd like to remind all of you to tune in wherever you listen. Every 1st and 15th, Susan Allen drops a new episode of Coffee with Dogs. Also, if you can be so kind to give your 5-star ratings and share this with your friends and your loved ones, we'd really appreciate it. How you been,
Yes,
Susan?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here. I love doing this.
I know you do, and so do I. Now, before we get started, let's talk about signs and communication from the other side. Like,
Mhm.
how can one person or people recognize signs from their loved ones who've passed over? I know you've talked about feathers and coins and such. So, how can you tell a real sign from wishful thinking?
Oh, I love that. That's a great question. Well, most people won't believe their eyes or their ears. And that's why I'm here to say it's real. It feels so subtle. You're like, oh, I must have been imagining that. But it's really not true. You're not imagining it. It's so subtle and gentle. I think that's how the spirit world communicates is with subtleties and gentleness. There'll be your favorite song that comes on the radio, which leads me into the wonderful story of a client this last week. But they use suddenly you'll find photographs that you didn't see for years, or I remember there was a sign and symbol. My girlfriend came to visit. It was like 20 years ago, and her dad had just died, and I was close to him, and she was really close to him. And she comes in and she's like talking about her dad, and all three of my overhead lights in the kitchen, the spots,
Yes.
popped one after another the minute she
What?
mentioned her dad. So three of them popped like boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh, your dad's here. And this is
I'm
kind of
here.
before, this was like I loved mediumship and I love psychics, but I didn't know I really was one because I wasn't doing evidential work at that point.
Oh my gosh.
So you have
Have
to
you,
trust it. You have to really trust it, and it's so subtle.
did it spook you out at first? Like, what is this?
No, she said, that's my dad.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a crazy story. She was my best friend. And we haven't been in each other's lives for a long time because her life got busy because suddenly we never talked about this. She became a medium. And
oh,
how, I don't know, like out of the blue, people used to say, you guys are sisters.
yeah.
And we saw a medium and said, you were sisters in a past life. And here I am, 5'6", brown, dark hair, and she's 5'1.5", and a little blonde girl with high cheekbones from her background was Swedish. So we were like, we don't even look alike, but we had so much in common. It's a really amazing friendship and relationship. And I remember running into somebody and saying, she became a medium. And I was just starting with mediumship. I know. So it might have been something that we had shared in a past life together. I don't know.
Yeah, it was almost like you had an activation. You activated each other.
We did. It was a very
Yeah.
soul-filled friendship and relationship at a very important time in my life. Absolutely.
I believe that they do say that the eyes never change. So there's always an instant knowing, even though our bodies reincarnate into different form, right?
Yeah, I notice the eyes change a lot with grief. I've talked about this on previous episodes. If you are really grieving the loss of a pet, it is a surreal loss, right? So
Mhm.
your eyes will could change color during that
Mhm.
time. It's kind of scary, but then all of a
Yeah.
sudden after that grieving process and people will say I still miss my dog, but it gets easier. You can learn how to function and breathe, and you're not morning, noon, and night grieving that loss. And then your eyes will go back to its normal color. So if anybody's eye color changes, you're going to be okay.
Yes. Now, what does a reading actually feel like from the medium side point of view? So,
Mhm.
how does your information come through, and why the evidence is so important when doing evidential mediumship?
Well, the evidence is important for the person that's getting the reading. So they don't think that you looked them up on Facebook or something like that, which I just want to tell everybody I have a quadrillion other things I could do with my life. I like I like to be right with the evidence,
Mm.
and I never look people up. I mean, I talked about looking somebody up after the reading because I know I saw her dog on her shoulders. And she kept denying. And I'm like, that was his most fun he ever had because she was this tiny woman and he was this giant dog. And I just said, I know there's a picture. And I looked her up on Facebook after the reading, and there was the dog on her shoulders. That's the most I've ever looked anybody up. But the evidence is so, it's really for you. It's not for me. It won't make sense to me. Like the woman who had a reading with me. I know she listens to our podcast, so I'll mention her story and then I'll mention other things. But this woman had a reading with me. She's wonderful. And I said, why is your mother holding a brush? Did I tell you this one? I
No,
go,
this
your
is new.
mother's holding a brush. And she lost it. And she goes, oh my God, I was at my mother's grave. And it was Mother's Day. I was at her gravesite. And she's like, Mom, your grave is filthy. I need a brush. This is like, you can't make this up. She goes, Susan, I looked. She told me this after I said, your mother's holding a brush and your mother's laughing. And oh, here's my headsets. I better put them back on. Anyway, so she says, I look in the distance, and under a tree, there's like a dirty old brush, but she grabbed it and cleaned her mother's gravestone.
Oh my goodness.
So her mother was giving her the message that she was laughing over her cleaning her gravestone. Her mother was the one who helped find the brush, I guess, you know. But there's so much evidence that comes in. And I also did a reading for somebody last Friday, and the evidence came in with the man's name. I never know what's going to come in. I never
Right.
know. So he came in with the name of who he was, and she said, oh, yes, yes. And I said, he's mentioning 9/11, and he had passed from the carcinogens
Oh.
by his home in his apartment downtown. And many people had that issue, the carcinogens from what was the asbestos and everything in the area. And he showed me 9/11. That was one of the indications. I don't always remember all my readings. I I try not to, but I
Mm-hmm.
get like a client Facebooked me that the evidence came in for him. I posted a song that was very relevant, I didn't know, to him for his son that had passed to the spirit world. And he Facebooked me on Facebook and commented, how did you know this was our song? I mean, you can't make it up. And today is the day he crossed to the spirit world. Like, why would this happen? And I said, well, to tell you the truth, he knows I'm coming to your party
Yeah.
July 17th. And he's just, validating that he knows that we're going to be together. That's what I got from all that. They tell a story. It's not all like dead people walking through my house. Occasionally, I know when somebody's at the door, they'll stand outside my door knowing somebody's, going to schedule with me. And then I get drops in my head, or I get the personality and they're talking through me in real time. And I got that. I just read somebody yesterday, a friend, and I think my assistant's going to do a Facebook post on it because what was transpiring is in real time, her mother was answering her questions. Like while I was with her, not that she asked me the question. That's the other thing. I don't want questions. You can ask questions at the very end, but generally speaking, when people have readings with me, I always say, do you have any questions about anything I brought through or anything extra? Like, I don't want to start at that point bringing more people in because we have 5 minutes, you know? But generally they always say, like, I would say 89.9% of the time, people will say, no, you answered everything I needed. Everything that I was thinking about, you brought through in the reading because I don't know what they need. Spirit
Yeah.
does, right?
Hmm. Right.
I'm not in charge of this. And the way that I feel when I'm doing it, you had asked that. I was just telling somebody yesterday about the way that I feel. I think it's the most free for me. Like, I'm not thinking about my life, my problems. I just empty myself and bring spirit through. So I think that's why I probably love to do it, and it all always depends on how much baggage the person has that comes to me as a medium, because sometimes they have very, very heavy energy. And being an emotional medium and an empath, sometimes that does affect me. And I have to go ground and hug a tree and meditate extra and do my qigongs and, pulse my light and all those things. But we definitely are in that fourth dimension because that's how we get our information. Another cute little story was I was on, I think it was an animal reading or it was a person reading. And all of a sudden I see in my mind's eye the Macy's sign. Did I tell you about this one? I did tell you on the last one.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not going to repeat it. Listen in my last episode.
I love that story, by the way.
Isn't it cute?
It's so cute.
And it was
I
like
love it.
another animal reading I was on with this woman, and we're talking about the current pet. And I go, why did they just show me a Lucy episode? She goes, oh, my dog Lucy, when I was a little girl. I go, well, she's here. And then she walked in. Like, once the beauty of this is it's so helpful. Like, when I give a piece of evidence, when somebody responds or can remember and go, oh my God, then so much more comes in. It's like the same thing about, we talked about like 10 minutes ago when we first started, how they show us evidence. If we acknowledge it and say, oh my God, I just saw a penny and it was on
Mm-hmm.
heads and that was my sign and symbol for such and such, or whatever, a song, and you just like open your heart like a little kid, I got to tell you, more evidence will come in, more signs and symbols will come in
Mm-hmm.
because they want us to believe. The dead people, the dead pets,
Mm-hmm.
they want us to believe because there is an entire world of energy. Our
Mm-hmm.
whole universe is energetics. You all know this. You all know about Tesla. You all know about energy. You all know about Einstein, the energetics, the quantum. It is so amazing how we are guided through our lives. There is so much energy that we can tap into to help us to make our lives better, to use this love of the universe, to use the love in our heart, to put it on everything we do, to light up our lives, to light up the next thing we have to do that we're like, oh God, I dread that. Light it, put the light on it.
I love all of this. It makes so much
So
sense. Now, the most common misconceptions about mediums, because I know there's quite a few. So, what do you wish people would understand before a session, before going into a session with you?
don't be afraid,
Okay.
relax. Like there's nothing to worry about or fear. And most mediums or people that are getting into this work are so sensitive that there are so many fears.
Yeah.
I lived my life so fearful, anxiety. I mean, I've had a great life. I lived a huge life. But there was anxiety all the time because underneath that anxiety is the gifts.
Wow.
That's your gift. My friend Pat Longo wrote a book, Pat's Now in Spirit, The Gifts Beneath Your Anxiety. Anxiety attacks are huge for mediums. And
Mhm.
meditation is key, slowing down your thoughts and breathing. Was that the question? I know I definitely went off.
It was the what's the most common misconception that people
Mm,
have about medium?
perfect. That we are connected to something dark or
Mm.
evil or my head's going to spin off its body or, weird things. Like, I had a young girl, her session was paid for by somebody else. It was a gift. I think she was so terrified. And I said, I'm just getting you really nervous. Like I could feel that energy. And she
Yeah.
was like, yes, no, like an automaton, you know? And I kind of felt bad. And I thought, before you buy a gift certificate for somebody or want your friend to have an experience like you, make sure that they're ready because I don't want people to be freaked out. Like, this is a joyful healing. You should leave a mediumship session as if you've had a healing, like something profound would shift in you.
Absolutely.
And the guy that I'm visiting in Italy for
Mm-hmm.
his anniversary, he had one mediumship reading with me for his son, two animal readings. And he just needed that one reading, you know? And he said, I no longer needed to see a psychiatrist over my son's death, and I no longer needed medication.
Oh,
So that's how
wow.
profound it was for him.
Oh,
And he didn't
yeah.
believe in this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, then, and that go coincides with bringing in exactly what that client needs at that exact point of their time of their life.
Yeah, it's just letting go as a medium, getting out of the way and really loving the person in my Zoom. Or people can see me in person in Southern California. I have an office. But
Mm-hmm.
the main thing is to get a healing. Like you want to walk away from a meet and not fluff. You don't want fluff. You want the evidence. That's why we're doing this is to give the evidence of life after death. And I was going to talk about, I did some studying in England at the
Mm-hmm.
famous Arthur Finley. And those, the difference between, I think, American mediumship and English mediums, the UK. I don't know if you experience this. I don't know what your experience is with working with the English. They give straight evidence. Joe Blow that lived on 93rd Street, who rode a bike, and then they give all this evidence, and then at the very end, and they'll go, darling, he just wants you to know that he loves you and he's here. That's not how I work. I give evidence, but I also give the message behind the evidence. Like, I really love that work because it also helps people in their current situation, in their current life, move forward
Mm-hmm.
and not be stuck.
Yeah, I know you've given me messages that have healed me, inspired
Mm.
me, gave me clarity. I mean, you can name it, and it's all been evidential. And I know that most of the time when I ask you, "Hey, Susan, do you remember that time?" You're like, "No, I don't." Because
Mm.
it's almost like you said you're a conduit and you just
Yeah.
allow whatever
Yep.
needs to come in for that particular client. You're so gifted. I love you. Now,
I love
one of
you.
my last questions, why are some of the spirits that come through are louder than others, and why do some of them come in a little more quieter?
Well, okay, so this is cool. It could be the medium and it could be you,
Mm.
right? And it also is the spirit. So I'll give you, for instance, there was a celebrity that came through. It was Suzanne Summers that came through for her hairdresser that I read. And I didn't recognize her, but she said, I'm the blonde bombshell. And the hairdresser knew exactly who was there. They were very close. He traveled with her and everything. And she brought through specific messages for him for his healing. And I didn't know the backstory, of him and her. I didn't really know how close they really were, but how she was presenting in the reading was like she was still a celebrity. Like, they're great communicators, celebrities, entertainers, and you kind of need to be to do this work. It's got to be fun and exciting, and you want to story tell. And I don't mean tell stories. I mean story tell of the dead person or the dead animal. You're storytelling their life with you. not making up stories, giving evidence of life after death, but in a meaningful way. People will say, that's exactly how they would talk to me. They would say that, or that's exactly how he would act. This was all very, very meaningful to
Mm-hmm.
the person getting the reading. It has nothing to do with me. That's why I say, like, they chose me to be a conduit. Like,
Yes.
I wasn't looking for this. Oh, I loved mediumship. And I felt personally mediumship helped heal my life in so many ways. But I was, I just didn't think I'd end up being a medium. And here I am. And it's the most beautiful, happy work that I've ever done.
That's so special. Well, thank you so much for this session. I
Thank
really
you,
enjoyed
sweetheart.
this talk with you. And for everyone out there, don't forget you can find Susan's Coffee with Dogs on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. She's all over the platform. She's on Instagram, Facebook. Susan, is there anything you'd like to say to your viewers before you leave?
Thank you again for being here, for listening to us, and share and let people know about this wonderful podcast. If it helped you, I would love for you to share. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Susan. Have a good one.
You too, sweetheart. Thanks for joining me for another episode with Coffee with Dogs. I'm your host, Susan Ellen Medium, and I would love for you to write and review the podcast wherever you listen. This helps everyone find me. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. From my soul to yours, and from our animals to us all. Until we meet again.